episode, whatever blooming episode it is. Welcome to the Train by Fox podcast. Today we have AJ Morris on. His coaching brand is Made by Morris Coaching. I'll let him introduce himself and tell you more about him.
All right. So yeah, first of all, mate, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I know you've had some phenomenal guests. I was actually listening to John's the other day, and I listened to a bit of Hunter's this morning. Both of those guys in Cuba, of course, etc. Loads of the other guests are massively look up to. So appreciate you having me on. Myself, I am. Just have to think about this one. I'm 25 years old. I never know how old I am. 25 years old. I've been in the industry itself since sort of 2013, 2014. I started Team MBM coaching in 2014. And that was sort of as a byproduct of getting into the sport myself, realizing that I loved it, helping a few friends initially, just a few local friends in my area. So I grew up near Brighton, and sort of bodybuilding, especially natural bodybuilding, like wasn't really like, no one really knew what it was. I was like the first sort of like guy that really competed naturally in our area, in our little niche, little bubble. And, it's nice to see that now, coming up to 10 years later, we're almost there, that, natural bodybuilding has evolved massively. And I'm confident that the effort that I've put into promoting the sport and basically documenting my journey and sharing it on a wider scale has leveled it up, and now we're at a point where a lot of people do know about natural bodybuilding. And off air we were talking about how when you got into things, you didn't know what certain supplements meant, and nowadays people know what sort of on the ban list and what they can and can't take, and people have a bit more of an awareness of natural bodybuilding. So that's kind of been me, and my ethos has been promoting the sport of natural bodybuilding. I am a competitor myself, so I'm not just a coach.
Yeah, no.
Like I said, I did my first show in 2014, and that was a teenage show. I came third in my first ever show, didn't place at any of the British finals that I did. Next year, came back, did a bit better, won a qualifier, placed top 5 at some British finals, and then took a bit of time off, came back in 2017 as a junior at 21, and I won both my qualifiers. I won one junior British title. I got pipped by a guy called Taff Amaji, who actually came second to Theo this past weekend show, and he was drastically improved. Brilliant natural bodybuilder, probably will be one of the probably will go down as one of those that will be one of the greatest of all time at some point. He's just getting his way there. So, and then I won a junior world title as well in Boston with the WNBF. So that was sort of the year where, everyone talks about a year where they kind of realized that they could do something with the sport. That was the year where I realized, okay, it's not just something that I love. It's actually something I could be quite good at. I have a certain skill set that I think allows me to get into conditioning that other people might not be able to hit. And that's what kind of won me that year. And then ever since then, natural bodybuilding has just gotten higher and higher level of standards and conditioning now at the British final level, especially if you're not turning up with, lines in your glutes, you're probably not going to be in that first call out, to be honest, with the way that things are going at the moment. So that the standards are incredibly high. And my goal this year is, again, step back on stage after doing a pretty decent job last year, like winning my pro card with a certain federation. I'm aiming to come back to the sort of the UK amateur scene and win a British title in the UK first before I try and think about doing any sort of pro shows, because I just want to be at a standard myself as an athlete where I've won like a national title in my height and weight category, and then I can sort of say, right, okay, I'm ready to take the step up to sort of being with the pro classes in the future. But yeah, that's sort of me in a bit of a nutshell, and where I'm going, where I'm headed, and what I've done over the last few years.
Just going back to, where you were saying about the British, or let's say any natural competitive show, the quality, if you haven't got lines in your glutes and stuff. Me and Tom Ames, we jumped on a podcast, I think yesterday or Sunday, I can't remember the day, but we was discussing how in, let's say, assisted bodybuilding, how in, let's say, a pro qualifier, so you're not a pro, you're qualifying to compete for a pro card, how they want you absolutely peeled, but then you could go abroad to compete as a pro and they almost have a little bit additional body fat, let's say. Like he says, it's so, for him, he'll say competitors, it's so hard because I get them peeled to win their pro card. And then when they've got their pro card, I don't need to get them as peeled. It's a weird one where you were just basically with natural bodybuilders, even though they've not got the access to these supplements that are going to aid them in that condition, that they still bring that white bang, which is phenomenal. Now we're going to kind of, what I want you to go on, mate, because like, again, in my eyes, you are the UK epitome of a natural bodybuilder. Like I always look at your shots and go, how the fuck does AJ look like that? And I look like this. But anyway, we're not going to go into that because I'll cry.
Shush.
Yeah, the Natty rule book. So if you knew what you knew now back when you started, what would, not necessarily advice, but what would you say to somebody would be their, let's say, their initial priorities? We'll start with training, and then we'll go into nutrition, and then we'll go into potentially recovery. But the recovery bides with both of those. So starting out, I've just left high school, or I'm in university, or I've got a full-time job. Where's my priorities needing to be to start out?
And this is from like a lifestyle perspective, correct?
I'd say, let's say the majority of the people listening to this are lifestyle, but there's 25-30% listening that are potentially interested in one day competing.
Sure. So, I think first of all, with regards to, natural versus assisted bodybuilding, I think natural bodybuilding in itself is a great catalyst for anyone that wants to take the sport seriously as a whole. So, and what I mean by that is that if you're considering competing in bodybuilding in general, you should probably look to try and explore natural bodybuilding first.
Yeah.
No one really knows what genetic potential they have. And unless your absolute sole goals are relative to looking a certain way that is certainly not attainable naturally, then, I think visiting the natural route first, understanding whether you can compete at that level and get the diet done, get the training done, and basically just love it is a prerequisite before you get involved in the competitive side. But from sort of an optimization standpoint of, lifestyle, or, someone who's trying to balance the bodybuilding approach with whatever you've got going on in their life, I think it really just comes down to, like anything, it comes down a case of priorities. My day is scheduled around doing the stuff that needs to be done from the business side of things, and obviously running the coaching business. And then I have a flicking of the switch, so to speak, towards then me heading into what I'll call like athlete mode, which is when I train. And those things are completely separate. I'll even wear different clothes for doing work at home versus the clothes that I wear to go to the gym. I'll change outfits like someone would change outfits from a desk job to going to the gym. You need to have that transition of tasks within your day in order to sort of set your lifestyle up in your day, in order to be able to, make the most of your training, make the most of the time period in which you want to be an athlete and you want to be a bodybuilder. A lot of people will also listen to this, and I used to get this a lot when I was younger. I used to get it a lot where older people would say to me that, oh, it's all right for you, like you're young, you don't know what it's like when you have a family, you don't know what it's like when you own a house, you have bills to pay. And I used to get that said to me all the time when I was like coming up as a coach, 18, 19. And I sort of like said to them, oh yeah, fair play at that point. But, now, like, I don't have a family, I don't have kids, and I understand that's probably extremely difficult to manage. And I speak to many different bodybuilders, and I coach many bodybuilders who have a lot more on my plate than I do with regards to family life. But I also know a lot of those bodybuilders that have a lot less on their plate than I do from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
Like I will wake up and you know what it's like as a coach, your WhatsApp's barely ever empty. Your email's always inundated. You're always you go, go, go. And it can be quite easily something that literally does overwhelm you. And I've been there and done that. I've let coaching overwhelm me to the point where I feel like I'm never not working. Whereas these last 2 years have been my best ever for business, my best ever for me as an athlete, purely because I've taken the onus to prioritize like time management over everything. So I have set hours where I will do check-ins. And if someone's late, they won't get their check-ins on the next day. It's as simple as that, because I'm also someone that I want to make my own progress and I want to be a role model. So if I'm replying to a check-in at midnight and I'm also saying in that check-in, you need to prioritize your sleep, now I look like a bit of a hypocrite, really, if I want to be an athlete. If I want to just be a coach and a robotic coach that works endless hours and, never stops, 100%, I could go all in on that, but I don't want to go all in on that. I want to be a great athlete as well. So for me, it's really important that I do separate the two. I have a clear schedule, a clear time at which I, switch away from being a coach, be an athlete. And that's the best that I've ever worked my days. So, it really does come down to, whatever you've got going on work-wise, business-wise, make the choice to run your day in the best way possible. And if you don't like what you do, if you really don't like what you do and it really doesn't work for bodybuilding, yeah, get the fuck out. Like, why are you doing it? Why are you still doing it? It doesn't make sense to me. I know there's, bills to pay, jobs to blah, blah, but at the end of the day, you're the one that runs your own life. You choose it. So, people who complain about not having enough time or that their job sucks, then just, spend less time complaining and sort it out, do something different.
That entire speech, then you just become more like business manager in business in 20 minutes, mate. So I'm planning. I'm going to get changed an hour before I go to the gym. I'm going to send a message to all clients. If you're checking it done by this, you're not getting it till the next day. Yeah, those are getting implemented. So like realistically it's almost fix your life to what you want to do, essentially.
Yeah.
Like if your priority is right, okay, I want to give this bodybuilding a go, or I want to actually develop a pretty gnarly physique, then things within my life, like I've had a few clients in the past where I've had them, not me directly telling them, but they've worked weird shifts at work, and I'm like, right, so you take home 22k or 28k per year on this job, but yet there's a job out there that you could take the exact same rate home. It's a complete new field, but it's going to give you much better hours within your job to be able to have a better structured routine, a better relationship with your sleep. In essence, is going to aid your physique within 6 months of doing nothing different other than having regular shift patterns. I like what you said about where once upon a time you'd be up at midnight doing check-ins, and now you've kind of fixed that. And that again, I think any coach listening to this, like, take note on that, because your clients, they're not gonna appreciate, like, really care if they get an email at 1 a.m. They're not going to look at it till 7, 8 a.m., 9 a.m. the next day. So yeah, I like that. So going into training now, everyone talks training splits, and I know that you're a massive advocate of push-pull legs, and you've done that for many years and moons, and with then you hear some people saying go for a more frequent upper lower. Would you still kind of force towards a push-pull legs, bro split? Where would your mind be?
Sure. So for the natural athlete, so to speak, I think something that we've got, always bear in mind is that, everyone has, whether they're assisted or not, everyone has an individual recovery capacity. Yeah. So, your recovery capacity at the end of the day will be influenced by just a multitude of things. multitude of things. The more you understand about bodybuilding, the more you understand that your day-to-day recovery can be vastly different based on environmental, emotional, physical stresses, So one splits, saying that, this is going to be right is very open-ended. It's something that's, certainly adaptive. And yeah, you'll always find people that will be anomalies. But typically you're right. I do tend to sort of favor the push pull leg setup. Typically for me, it will look like push pull off, legs off. More so of late, I've done additional days in the day between the pull and the legs. I've favored putting in a bit more direct arm work for myself, and actually a bit more direct chest work. So some extra flies, etc., which I definitely think has done me favors, bringing up sort of weak areas for me, and something I have implemented with others where we're seeing the detriment of not having a direct arm day. I do really believe that, because let's face it, when we train at the level that we do, when we get to the end of a push or pull, even push, if you put full effort into push, after all your presses, you're pretty drained, especially from like a neurological side of things. If you're getting into heavy dumbbell presses, even heavy barbell presses or Smith presses, they take a lot of focus and attention. And by the time you get to the arms, it's so easy just to, put on a attachment and do a few fluffy push downs and not really focus as much as you would if you went, not really put the effort, lay down the effort that you would if the first exercise you had in a session where you turned up the gym, you just had your pre, your coffee, your non-stim, whatever, you're focused, you're ready, and you go into a push down. That push down is probably going to be a lot better. So that's the thing that I've changed sort of as of late for myself and for clients that do deserve that slightly more specialized focus.
I think that comes
Sorry,
from
mate, go ahead.
I think that comes from, as well as you being like, as you've developed more of an understanding of your physique and seeing what your shots look like, where your needs, like a needs analysis, as Luke Miller would call it. And it's like you going through that and associating like, right, being where you are in a prep is you having a rest day of reduced calories versus you having a training day of a little bit more of an increase, and having those body parts in from an expenditure point, you're gonna burn more as well, aren't you? While still retaining. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so that's been at least a win so far this particular year. And then outside of that, I think once you've found out your own individual recovery capacity, it is really a case of doing that sort of needs analysis when you diet down. And for a lot of my clients, especially those that have got very long-term goals of stepping on stage, what it looks like for us is we'll do as much as we can, get out as much as we can from a gaining phase. We'll follow that up with a relatively short and assertive diet. During that diet, we set up some priorities for the next phase. We understand a little bit more about what weak points are looking like. So it's very rare that you're able to identify weak points at higher body fat set points. Your physique just doesn't have that ability to diagnose things. But when you pull it down, if you pull it down even 15, 20 pounds above a predicted stage weight, you can still start to see some stuff. Because a lot of my clients will sit, especially the younger ones, will sit potentially 35, 40 pounds above a predicted stage weight in their off seasons, because that's where they're most productive. That's where they'll be moving the most weight. That's where they'll be, what I like to say is, gaining that density, gaining that maturity. Because if you don't visit those body weights ever, you're probably going to stay small, to be honest. If you're a young athlete, natural, that's consistently within a 15 to 20 pound range of your stage, that's pretty lean. That's going to not allow you to touch the weights that the guys are getting when they're 35, 40 pound above. I think as you gain experience, this is a slightly different topic, but still worthy. As you gain experience, you can afford to do the off seasons where you stay 15 or 20 pounds away from stage weight. And actually that does start to become your good place to operate. Like, take me back to when I was a junior. This weight right now would have been 20 above, and I would not be strong. I would not be that strong. I would be, moving moderate poundages at this specific weight. Now this weight is 10 pounds above a stage weight and I'm a lot stronger, but I only got here by getting up much heavier and building that performance, and also staying there for quite a long time as well, with a very long off season that I did when I was like 22, 23.
owning that kind of weight realistically. Because
what's that do?
You're owning that weight at those 40 pounds.
Yes.
Owning that tissue to actually call it yours without dieting down and it just being glycogen stores.
Yeah.
What are you weighing now, AJ?
Weigh 167 pounds. I don't really know what that is in kilos. Must be like 78-ish, 77, something like that.
166 pounds in kilogram. 75.
75, yeah.
What you done?
And I reckon my stage weight this year is going to be low 70s, maybe even about 70 kilos.
Wow, that's pretty. That's going to be sick to see.
It's going to be light, mate.
What was your last show?
About 73, 74.
So you look at that in sense, and I guarantee those photos are going to show new tissue, and you're going to look bigger at below 70 than you did at 73, which goes.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Which goes again against what in here you kind of consider, don't you? You're like,
yeah.
Let's get super heavy, but you've owned that over the years. Where I see again, I think I'd say Jack Forburn's a very good, not very good, but a good kind of indicator of where he's got carried a substantial amount of body fat, and then he's took that to where he needs to. Social life. Now, this is something I feel that I've seen change within your life over the years. You obviously moved to Rotherham and you kind of put yourself around the, let's say, bodybuilders more so than where you was probably previous.
100%.
I'd say no. I think a lot has changed within your social life and people that you probably avoid in comparison to what you did before. Would that be, let's say, within a rule book of wanting to succeed both, let's say, as a lifestyle client and a competitive bodybuilder? That's something you'd have your clients fix, I imagine.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, any opportunity to make your environment better is going to improve not only bodybuilding, but just your general enjoyment of day-to-day life. Like I'm extremely grateful to have the people that I have around me, because I can go into the gym and be surrounded by a bunch of IFBB pros, people who are relentless. I'm extremely close with Cuba, and he's not only relentless in bodybuilding, but relentless in business. And I think me and Cuba have said it to each other, is that we just both drive each other forwards. That's what we are. Like, we always support each other's wins. If Cuba's got something going on, or he has a mini win in business or bodybuilding or life, whatever, I'll be the first to sort of back that up. And the same goes for him with me. So, we've sort of fallen on our feet with that one for sure. I think we're very, very like-minded in a lot of ways with the way that we view like life and progression. And then obviously, like from a relationship standpoint, I'm in a relationship now where I'm with someone that's just is equally driven and dedicated and passionate about the sport itself and the business side of things, and also is just so deeply invested in my process. Like this, I don't think I've ever met someone that's so truly supportive of what I do, and just wants me to succeed. So, and yeah, for relevance on that, like, that's my partner Loz, who is also my training partner. Like she's a massive part of my every day. Yeah. And she's just a huge part of the jigsaw puzzle that is moving forwards and making life enjoyable and fun on a daily basis. Like, this is probably over the last year the most I've ever enjoyed bodybuilding, coaching wise, the most I've ever enjoyed my own process. And it makes a massive difference. Your circle, your, like, there's 4 or 5 people that you're surrounded by. You are the sum of that, as they say. So, you will kind of become those people in a way, like even small mannerisms or, the way you think. So if you're surrounded by someone that's toxic or someone that's negative or someone that doesn't quite have the same, maybe, it doesn't have to be the same, but it has a very different sort of approach to life to you, then you'll maybe be dragged down in that, and you'll be surprised to how far that can pull you. Something actually is of note with that is that I realized I just literally watched James Hollingshead's latest video, and I noticed that ever since he came back from training with Jordan, he changed his training partner, which is interesting. And that's nothing against, obviously, like who his previous training partner was, but like you could see that he was always the strongest out of like the people he trained with. And I think it's important to have someone with either a mindset that will push you or someone that's ahead of you that you can chase. I think that's really important. And like Loz for me creates lifts in my head that I think that I can't do, and will tell me to go for another rep that I think maybe I can't do. And it's very rare to have that, especially with someone of her training age. She doesn't like, she's only been training properly for like a year and a half. But she understands what is required. And there's other people that will just be happy with, you just doing a set and racking it when you want to rack it. But she'll demand a rep if a rep needs to be taken, and that's what you need. You need someone to really push past those mental barriers that you sometimes set yourself. So yeah, I think that's very important when it comes to the circle and the people that you got.
I think touching on that, like, let's go to the James Hollingshead thing. Is like anyone that's ever probably watched him is probably watched him train, and it almost looks like he's gone through the motions in comparison to what he's doing now, is what I'll say. And that's no disrespect to his previous training partners, but I think I watched the same video and I was like, holy shit, where has this come from? And if James kind of does that over the next 6-12 months, it's going to be unstoppable. Likewise with yourself, like what I was saying when you was talking about your other half, is it's very uncommon for like when I've coached clients and they says, oh, I'm training with my partner, I've almost wanted to say, can you please not? Because essentially, like they're not some of them, even males, like some of them not tapped in here enough to have you take those reps. And whether it's that or they've just got that confidence in you that you haven't, I think that's a game changer. But yeah, I like that.
I think with partners as well, it can be difficult because you almost like, I can imagine some people struggle to see their partner like suffering, but I think Loz takes great satisfaction.
Yeah.
So
that's another.
Because I'll like make sure that she does a horrible set, and then like yesterday we were doing paused leg press, and like I counted her pauses, and they were like fucking horribly long, like way longer than 2 counts. And she was like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna make your pauses longer." And so my set was incredibly hard to retain. Yeah, that's what you need though.
It is, and I think like one thing I said to someone the other day is like, everyone was once upon a time in this going back to training is you'd say, how many reps did you get? And then you'd instantly try to beat that reps. And I think, no, let's I'm going to try and fail before you and make these reps harder and a little
yeah.
There's definitely a skew for that. I
think Jordan and James are still on the how many reps did you get?
I spoke to Cal yesterday, and he trained with Jordan in Alicante, and he's
I saw that picture.
He smashed his broke a rib.
What Cal or Jordan?
Cal has.
Cal. Oh no.
But because we're filming on Thursday, Spectra's coming down, and we're going to do some sit-down topics, and then we're going to train. And like I said to him, I says, "How are you?" And he's like, "It's going to have to be arms on Thursday, mate."
Oh shit!
It was on the.
That's the last thing he needs.
He was on the supported row, and he says he just felt it click. He's had a treatment, and they says there's nothing you can do. You've just got to let it repair.
Oh jeez. Well, that's what you get. That's what you get for trying to keep up with probably Jordan's poundage and
Yeah.
Callum's like one meal that he had prior or something.
It would have been fluid.
Yeah, just literally monster.
Yeah, yeah, kind of monster.
Monster modafinil.
I don't even. He probably hadn't even had. He probably like well, half the time he probably wouldn't even take the modafinil because he'd forget. Uh,
Yeah.
anyway,
Oh well.
coming away from that,
Back on topic.
how it like I'm actually quite keen on this. Like you see, he says, Loz, you're overall. She's trained for a year and a half. She's made some.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that. I'm, like looking at.
Yeah. I mean, she's trained before. Like her first proper year of training really was last year, when she was training with Meg quite a bit. And obviously she was coached by Cuba for that first proper year. And then this half of the year has really been like where she's training with me. Obviously, like, Cuba did a phenomenal job with her and she learned a lot and she was already training relatively well. But there's only so much you can do over form clips. And Loz wasn't really that type of girl to film any form clips in the gym anyway. So she got her first real push from training with Meg. And then she stopped training with Meg because Meg was prepping, and then obviously Meg started training with Cuba, and their splits aligned because they both need to bring up their posterior. And then she sort of hopped across to training with me. So obviously we got together September of last year. So yeah, she's been sort of like properly with her head down, like, probably the last year, really, really, really doing what's necessary in the gym without, being 100 pounds,
Yeah.
which she was for a lot of last year when she was prepping for a bikini show. So she'll do figure in probably 2023, with the natty feds.
Time.
So,
Is she
yeah.
coaching as well? Isn't she? Does she coach under your brand or?
Yeah, she's got her own thing. She always wanted her own thing. So, and to be honest, like I wanted her to have her own thing as well. As much as it would maybe been, in some ways you could look at it as nice to go in as a collaborator, but I'm already a collaborator anyway. Any questions she has, any checking that she's unsure about, topic, whatever, she can always buzz me. But she's starting up and she's it's probably about a quarter of the way through BTN as well. So BTN Academy. So she'll be completing that soon. And then she'll just go on to further education with the fitness industry as much as she can.
Did you say you are collaborating and you've got like people within your brand now?
No. Like just collaborating in terms of like I'll help her with her clients, So if she doesn't really need very much help often, a lot of the people she's coaching are more lifestyle based. But she has got one girl that will go next year called Megan, who actually has just a ridiculous physique. She'll be a women's bodybuilder, like straight out of the gate, first time competitor, women's bodybuilder. She's got a lot of muscle. So I'll sort of like play a backseat role on that because I think that's where Loz wants to go. She loves being at the show. She loves, bodybuilding as a whole. She wants to prep people and she wants to be that sort of like natural female coach that stands out in the industry. And I really think she can do that.
I think with all that, I think you've got the circle there because is most of her clients female?
Yes. Most of mine are male, to be honest. I do attract some females, in the figure classes, especially. And I think I think you'll agree with this, mate. There's always females that will not have a female coach. There's always going to be that kind of like client that just doesn't want to be coached by a female. They prefer a male coaching them. So there's always going to be people that will come my way for that. And then there's others that will, like a female coach. They feel like they can share more with a female coach, etc. And those clients can go Loz's way. So yeah, I think it will work well.
Well, Cuba says when we had him on, he was saying that like there's like if he has some natty clients that he'll have come to him that he don't seem to work with, he'll shoot them your way, and often you'll shoot assisted ones.
Yeah, all the time. Like I've even the people that now I've had it happen a few times where people want to go down the assisted route, and I've said consult with Joe. get a consult with Joe in, have a chat with him.
Joe Jeffrey.
Joe Jeffrey. Yeah. I always say go consult with Joe Jeffrey because I know he does his consultations, and I've been on a 3-way call of those a few times. They've been brilliant. Like, he says what he needs to say. So I always do that first. And then if they come back and they're like, I really want to push for this. I want to, I want to actually compete assisted as well. I'll say, okay, like Cuba, Cal, Joe, yourself, like these people, they're going to do a better job with that than me. I know where my skill set lies, and it doesn't lie there, and I want to develop it more. But I don't think that will ever be where I take clients on board. I want to have a knowledge base, but I don't think I'll use it in practice, to be honest, with clients.
Like people, anyone that knows who you are knows that you've always driven towards this goal of being the best coach for natural athletes and natural competitors. Yeah. So like that I think that aligns with your goal. Like you're not creating work for yourself to take you away from that, because you could become a really good assisted athlete coach, and then go, right, I'm driven more towards this, and you're going to lose focus of this. So fair play to you, man. That's sick. What's AJ's goals for the future? Where do things lie, like in terms of business? So we just touched on collaborations, and I see multiple kind of coaches going down this. Like I think Joe Ballinger, he's just renamed his coaching from Joe Ballinger to the New Breed, and obviously Cuba did that. Is that ever going to become a thing?
Never say never. At the moment, definitely not at the top of my mind. I think the reason for that, in all honesty, for me it's not that I've got trust issues or anything like that. It's just that I know for a fact that I can still impact people on a wider scale without having to touch them on a coaching basis. I know that if I brought on more coaches, I'd be able to potentially impact the coaching world on a greater level. And I do see the premise in that. I think in the future, I'd rather just go down more heavily the mentorship side of things, and be able to take people through that mentorship process and have a proper program in place to do so. I'd rather do that than sort of bring them in as part of the team, and then have to audit all of their coaching. If something went wrong with that, it'd be I'd certainly take ownership. So I think for now, with where I'm at, I just want to sort of keep running shop myself from the coaching perspective. I've always admired, some of the top coaches in the natural scene, like Cliff Wilson and Team 3DMJ and things like that. And I know that Team 3DMJ has always been a collaboration of 4, 5, 6 different coaches. And I do understand why people do that. But for me at the moment, it's just sort of, trying to continue to sort of level up myself and move this business forwards and continue producing results, and get pro cards, get people on stage winning overalls, just like we did at the weekend. That's definitely more of that to come, is certainly what I'm aiming for from the business standpoint, athlete standpoint. Just continue racking up as many wins as I can, really, and solidifying myself as a top athlete naturally in the UK. And I know the natural scene's only going to get tougher and tougher to crack, but if I can keep bringing what is a good standard, I believe that I can be it, and that top standard of natural athletes in the UK pretty consistently. And whether or not that yields me pro status, or whether I do pro shows or whatever, that's by the by. I'm, like I said, I'm 25. I'm under no illusion that the best natural bodybuilders that aren't absolute genetic freaks are in their early 30s. Yeah. So I've got a lot of time ahead of me. Like, I'd love to be winning pro shows and being absolutely established as a brand and as a business and as the go-to guy in the industry. And I'd love to have that happen in my early 30s. And then from my early 30s into when I'm sort of 40 odd, that can be me just sort of owning that space. Then maybe at that point I'll retire and just do some motor racing and stuff like that.
I was gonna touch on that. The minute when you got to your 40s, I was like, and then I was gonna actually interrupt and say, then you'll retire and just race around the track all day.
Yeah. I mean I don't ever think I'll stop coaching, to be honest. Like I don't see that happen. I think I'll always be involved at some level. Um, I'd love to get more heavily involved in the a lot of people ask, would I ever run a gym? No. Cuba owns that space. And the only thing that I would ever do on a gym perspective is have my own facility, very small, um, similar to what Jordan and Corin have done with their facility, like a sort of a private facility. That's the only thing I could ever consider. That'd be a long way off.
Yeah.
Um, what I what I would consider in the future is what was I going to say? Um, from a business standpoint, is like moving towards coaching a lot less clients, being more involved in natural bodybuilding from a perspective of like helping run federations, lift the sport up, maybe even I've never ever said this before, but maybe even owning and running a federation myself. Very heavily interested in doing that because I'm extremely passionate about it. And I think there's actually in 10 years' time, I would like it to be a better space for people to compete in, where there's one clear federation that can take you to the best level in natural bodybuilding. Whether that's possible in the next 2 decades or so, I don't know, but I'm going to work my ass off for that to try and happen so that when people are my age, they have not just what we have right now, which is incredible, but even better.
Yeah.
So that natural bodybuilding is like something where you go to a qualifier and you're interviewed for a video that's going to go live. It's like MDs there, muscular development kind of thing. Like it's a big thing and you're made to feel like a proper athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have world finals in the UK and we have, opportunities to continue to travel, all of these things. Like I have so many ideas with that luckily enough, I'm already really close to Lee Kemp, who runs the UK FBA. Lee and Amy are some of my closest friends, and I'm lucky that I can go back and forth with them quite a lot, mainly on an athlete perspective at the moment. But like I've heavily invested time into like spending time with those people because it is something that I do want to be involved in the future. So when the shows were running normally throughout, like ever since I competed in 2017, 2018, I went to every show. I traveled to Scotland. I traveled to LA for the Worlds. I traveled to New York for the Worlds. I did every single qualifier just because I want to be there. I want to be there around those people, learn the sport more. Um, and that the take home for any coach is like, if you want to be a top tier coach, go to every single show that you want clients in. Go to every single show you want clients in. Every single show that you want a client to win, you need to be there. You need to understand what the standard is so that when I told Theo at 3 weeks out, I said, you're going to win the overall. I knew that with absolute, like almost certainty. You can never call the shots, but I could tell him, I was like, it's going to take something ridiculous to stop you winning the overall because I'd been at that show for 5 years prior.
You knew what the winning package looked like prior to
that. Exactly. Which I think is so uncommon in this industry, especially with a lot of new coaches coming through. And I think it's brilliant that people are getting into the sport and coaching is blossoming. It's amazing. But a lot of these new coaches, like they blow a lot of smoke up the clients and say that this is phenomenal and this is world class or whatever, and they just don't know what world class is.
No, but that just essentially retains client retention into
retains clients massively when you just blow smoke all the time. But yeah, anyway, I went massively off topic. I think that's pretty much me, mate. The whole motorsport thing, it's a massive passion for me. I was involved in motorsport from like the age of 8 until I was 16. So getting back into some form of like competitive sport in that instance, maybe when I'm older, definitely possible. Maybe take a bit more capital to to have my own race car or something like that. But whether it be like getting back into competitive karting or something like that, you're never too old to do that kind of thing. So be very open to the idea of doing something like that in the future. And if I build me as a brand doing something like that can still be beneficial, because by that point, if people are following me as a brand on the YouTube channel and my Instagram, then whatever I do, people will probably be somewhat interested in following it, because it's a brand, not just a bodybuilder. And that's something that I'm always thinking about. I'm thinking, right, do I always want to be a tagline bodybuilder, or do I want to be someone that people are just generally interested in following because of who I am, So yeah, that's that,
You
mate.
reach your coffin. It's you're either going to be running your own bodybuilding federation, or you're going to be racing cars, basically, to the day.
Or both, and heading to an early grave.
But in bodybuilding, we all die before we're 70 anyway. All right.
Yeah, well, mate, that's the thing. You'd rather have a really, really fun life and live to 70 than live to 90 and just be boring.
Follow the book of life. Are you married?
Yeah.
Do you own your ass? We'll come away. We're going off topic. This is going to be this is going to be a little bit of a, what's your most frequently asked or common question that you get in your DMs on Instagram?
Where'd you get your logbook from? That's it. That's it. Every day inundated. So much so that I stopped using the logbook that I had, because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't put my logbook on my Instagram anymore. So I started using one from Asda that I just write out myself, and now I just tell people that it's from Asda. But the thing is, I've tried to have logbooks made, but the supplier that's getting them done to me for some reason just can't understand anything that I'm saying. So they've taken four samples, and they still don't understand what needs to be done. So maybe I'm just being picky, but the logbooks that I will create will some point be released, maybe in 3 or 4 years time, and then I can just send them a link.
Yeah.
But before that, it's essentially promoting someone else's brand all the time for not much. So I stick to the old Asda logbooks now.
A5.
Yeah, the A5. Yeah, I wrote them out like Hunter does, because I realized that was a really cool idea.
Yeah, I like that. He folds his page as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, but you have you have a page, obviously a dual page.
Yeah.
You have 5 sessions all on there of the same rotation, so you can go back 3 or 4 sessions, but without having to flick a page.
Strength Factory. Not strength.
Too big.
That's my opinion. When clients have it, I was like, mate, that's going to get destroyed within a month.
You look like you're going to a job interview when you're going to the gym. You look like you're bringing an A5 portfolio with you.
There you go. Strength Factory, reduce your size. Is there a second most frequently asked question?
Do you do coaching? That's another one that I just look at it and I'm like, these are always in the requests as well, which unfortunately don't always get cleared.
My question for anyone listening would be, do you have spaces available for coaching?
Yeah, that's common as well. And the thing is, it's I think sometimes, fair enough, people are maybe a little bit almost scared to inquire if they're going to get turned away, or there isn't a space, or so. I get it. And to be honest, as much as someone might listen to this on the podcast, I just want to say that I do appreciate questions. I do appreciate having a following, and no question is a silly question, but sometimes the logbook ones that come in 10 times a day or whatever are a bit repetitive. So that's the only reason we're
touching
talking about these.
That question I asked was, in all seriousness, is there space on Made by Morris coaching for anyone that potentially listening?
Oh, at the moment. So no, not at the moment, I'm afraid. So last month I shut down sort of any newcomers or on new onboardings, just because I'm at a point where there's a lot of people on stage. I know there'll be a small drop off at the end of the year with people coming out of preps, and once I've had my winter switch off, and got back sort of from that. I will endeavor to start a load of people in December, January. So if anyone is listening to this and is interested in working with myself, please do reach out, and we can sort of we can probably book in a consultation. We can have a chat. We can do that back and forth process, and we can make sure that you're utilizing the next four or 5 months, effectively. But then, starting point will most likely be for those people December, January time when my numbers allow. Because I'm really enjoying the amount of people that I'm working with at the moment. It's a really nice number. And I think if I was to go any higher, I'd just end up, being more stressed, and then the coaching quality for me does drop off when I'm stressed. So yeah.
In regards to your coaching, what do you look for within a client?
To be honest, just a very dedicated client that has not, like, now with the clients that I want really on the roster is just quite big goals within natural bodybuilding. Doesn't matter where you are right now, but if you want to achieve something within the sport and you want to level up, that's the kind of person I want to work with. And also someone who's got like a good integrity to the point where they can handle criticism, but also they can handle results. Remind yourself that in bodybuilding, we're creating a physique, we're not creating a result. I can't guarantee you a result on stage. I can guarantee you that I can get you into if you work, I can guarantee a physique, but I can't wish results out of no one can predict who's going to turn up on stage. So if someone's got that mindset, then I'd love to work with them.
That's awesome. Is there anything you want to add in there yourself, like anything that you might want to touch on based on anything I've not probably asked?
No, to be honest, mate, I think that was a really nice podcast. Several different topics that we delved into, and hopefully helpful for the people that listened.
I reckon it will be. If anyone comments, if they do, in this thingy, we may do a follow up. How many weeks are you out?
I just done 9, so 8.5.
8.5. So we could probably do a follow up after that. Would most of your actual clients have followed up by then?
Yeah. Pretty much everyone would have been on stage. So I'll have one more show after that, which will either be Worlds with the UKFBA if I qualify, or I'll do the I think it's the 5th of November, the Two Bros Natural show, 10x Natural. Sorry, it's the 7th of November. So that will be like my last show of the season. So I'll be done by early November, and then November should be like a wind down month for me, and then off to Dubai at the end of the year to completely switch off.
Do you collect data across your own prep of how things went week to week, like a data tracker? Perfect. I imagine you do, because most do now, and I do. With that, what we could probably do on that one is kind of an overview of your prep. Like maybe have you share your screen, pull up, this is me at this is what I did at this, just so anyone listening, they can also appreciate what you as a natural athlete has to put yourself through. Even the extremities, probably the weeks of where nothing's changed and everything's going perfect, to the weeks where, holy shit, am I going to be good enough? So on and so on. It might give them a good indicator of, right, AJ he is a robot as such in prep, but there's also a lot of different barriers that he faces, and it's not, like you said, where somebody used to say to you, oh, it's all right for you, because you probably get that now as a natural athlete, like, oh, AJ's phenomenally gifted with great genetics. Well, yeah, but you're always gonna presume that by looking at someone with a great physique, but you're never gonna look at that picture of them when they first ever step foot in a gym, unless you're Phil Heath. Like, that picture of him with a basketball is like, serious? Yeah. But yeah, I'd be game for that, maybe mid to late November after your competitive season.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely sort that.
I'm also, and like what over here is training wise, when are you free for me to get Jake to come up and film a session? Would that be November too?
Yeah, ideally November at this point, mate. Just because like timing wise and split schedule and things like that, it's so much easier just to sort of book something where I can be a little bit more free willed, so to speak.
Let's do it. Well, thank you for coming on, AJ. Been amazing. Appreciate it.
Pleasure, dude. Anytime.
Like, subscribe, share all that riff raff, and thank you everyone for listening. Cheers.